Welcome to Green Beans, where two boys dressed in green sit on beans and chat about life. I'm your host, Jared, and with me is Ethan,
Hello, hello.
my brother and co host. And we're back at it again, episode 5 this time.
I like how you started that. Welcome to Green Bean. Like,
Yeah, as I was saying it felt a bit weird, but I went with it.
yeah, might as well.
Yeah, so to start out, we'll just talk about stuff that happened in our lives since the last episode. So last week we talked about NYLT, National Youth Leadership Training, and how we're staff members at NYLT.
Yep.
So check out that episode if you haven't yet. But this past weekend we had a staff development weekend at Camp Sunrise, which is where the course takes place. So the whole staff of NYLT all met at the summer camp, and we spent a weekend there and got a lot of work done preparing for the course.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. We got to develop our team. Do team development, get to know the staff, since some people have not done an in-person meeting yet.
Yeah, with everything like this year and COVID, some people have only been able to come to our meetings, or like the other meetings that we've had this year virtually. So yeah, it was nice to see some faces that we've only seen on the computer so far this year.
Yeah, but we got a lot of work done, so I'm happy about that. But I'm nervous for the course. I still feel underprepared.
Yeah, this year we're a lot less prepared than a typical year. I mean, it's not anybody's fault. It's just because of the pandemic we weren't able to meet like we normally would and get everything done the same way we would. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully it'll all end up okay and we'll run a good course.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that was during the weekend. Last Wednesday, so I volunteer at an aquarium nature science place. It's called Echo. And so I volunteer doing like animal care. That includes like husbandry tasks with the animals and feeding them, cleaning, stuff like that. And so last Wednesday, I got to go off site with like all the animal care staff, and we got to release some baby turtles.
That's cute.
Yeah, they were so small, so adorable. And so yeah, Echo does this program where, so there's a part of like the Vermont Fish and Wildlife stuff. They in like late fall, I think, they go around to these turtle nests and look for the turtles that maybe haven't hatched yet or are stragglers. Because winter's coming and it's going to be too cold for baby turtles. So they collect the turtles and then they give them to Echo, where we house them for the winter. And then finally, when it's summer, it's warm enough for them to go back into the wild, we set them free. And so that was, that only took like about an hour to do, but it was about 45 minutes away, so a little bit of a drive. And there were news people there recording the turtles and everything.
Yeah.
And so we had two different species of turtle. We had the spiny softshell turtle, which, if you can extrapolate from the name, it had a soft shell.
Well, wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah. They're really cute. They're spotted, at least the species we had, and they have the little like snout that kind of resembles a snorkel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they were very small, very cute. And we also had map turtles. They look like your typical turtle. They have a regular shell. Yeah, they just look like turtles.
All right.
So yeah, we had a ton of soft shell, maybe like 5 map turtles, for a total about like 20 some turtles.
Oh, that's a lot.
I mean, more typical years there's almost 50
Oh, wow.
sometimes. Yeah, it depends on the year, but sometimes there's 50 turtles. So 20 is actually kind of low.
Hmm.
But and there were a bunch of little kids there. Don't exactly know why. Maybe kids of like donors who donate to Echo or whatnot. So I got to pick up the little turtle, hold it in my hand for a little bit, and then I put it in a little bin. And then I'd give it to a kid. They'd bring it to the shore of the beach where we were letting them go, and then they'd gently pour the turtle into the water, and then the turtle would swim away and like maybe it'd bury itself in the sand or be very confused. It's like, where am I? So
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
it was very cool. I'm so glad that I got to go there and help out with that. And I was also on the news for like
Wow.
a split second.
That's pretty cool.
My back.
Local celebrity here.
Yeah. Couldn't even see my face. It was just like my hair, my back, and I was in the background. But I was on the news.
Yeah, you're going to be walking down the street, and someone behind you is going to be like, hey, I recognize that head.
I recognized that from that one split second from that turtle thing.
Yeah.
And then after we were done with the turtles, we went out to lunch, got sandwiches. And then, well, at the sandwich place, it's called Heroes Welcome, and it's a very touristy place. Like, it had a lot of Vermont heritage stuff there, and like just, it was very Vermonty, and it was almost like a gift shop too. So we explored that a little bit. It was cool they had like facts about like different people in Vermont, like Ethan Allen, big Vermont guy.
Yeah.
And I don't remember his name, but there was the guy who wrote the Jungle Book. He did so when he was in Vermont.
Yeah. I don't know his name either, but
So yeah, there was a lot of cool facts everywhere, and it was a cool place. And then after lunch, me and the main animal care staff who aren't volunteers, they get paid. We went fishing, sort of. Not like with a fishing pole or anything. We went with a big net, and we wade out into the water and then just like walk back to shores and trying to scoop up fish, because Echo wants to add new fish to the aquarium. So, might as well just go out into the lake and catch some.
yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, they have some like really cool and like big different kinds of fish at Echo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really thought about how they get them, but
Yeah, depending on what they're trying to get, if it's an exotic animal, obviously they need to buy it.
I mean, most of the animals there aren't exotic though. 'Cause
Yeah.
most of them are from like Lake
A lot
Champlain.
of them are indigenous. We do have some frogs though. Like we have some poison dart frogs.
Oh yeah.
That don't live around here. But yeah, a lot of the species at Echo are from here. But we were searching for like the most common fish you could find, like perch, sunfish, bluegill. Actually, I think sunfish is like technically a just like a body shape for like bluegill and pumpkin seeds or something. Bass too. We found a lot of fish that we weren't looking for. Like there was we found a few baby pike, and
then
a lot of baby minnows, shiners,
yeah.
silverside. I think that's a thing.
Yeah, and you brought them all back to Echo, and
Yeah, we brought them back to Echo, and Most of the ones, since we were fishing pretty shallow, we need to first acclimate them and then let them grow a little bit so they're
Mhm.
big enough to be put on display,
Yeah.
which might take a few months.
Huh. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a very long day.
Yeah, I bet.
And just for a volunteer, like I spent about probably 8 hours volunteering. So
Yeah. Well, that's pretty cool. I guess we can transition into our main chunk of the episode. And we're doing something a little different this episode. We're going to try playing a game.
we're gonna play a game. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah. So, what we're going to do is I got my iPad here. We're going to
Mhm.
pull up a random word generator. I have it open. And we're going to generate a random word. And then we're just going to see where it takes us. We're going to maybe share our thoughts on whatever that word is, share some opinions, hot takes, any stories we have related to it.
Yeah. All right, go for
Right.
it.
First word. Art. Well, that's quite broad.
Well, you, sir, are the art man. You like art.
That's true. I really like art. I make art. I have an art Instagram account. Yo, follow me over at jaredkarn_art on Instagram. I really like making digital art, and I like making portraits of people. So I've made portraits of lots of our family members, like you. I've made some of me, made some of my friends, um, and yeah, I mean, I enjoy making art, and then also like maybe this will change because currently it's the summer and I'm going into my junior year of high school, so I don't need to have everything figured out yet. But currently, what I want to do is I want to go to art school for college, and I want to major in interior design. And maybe things will change. Maybe I'll decide on something else. But that's my current.
Maybe you'll want to be a paleontologist.
Um, I'm not a big science guy. I don't really see going from interior design to paleontology. Those are like if I did change my mind, it would still probably be somewhere in the same realm.
Exterior design.
Ooh. Is that a thing? Like, are there exterior design? I mean, I'm sure there are.
Yeah, totally. Like, if there's gonna be an interior, you gotta have the exterior, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, is it more like, do architects design the exteriors? Do they have like specific people? I don't know.
I-
But
That's not my realm.
yeah, so I really like interior design because I feel like the space that you're in can really like it can impact what happens in that space like so much. Because if you're in like a space that feels like more cramped and there's a lot, it's a very busy space. Like it might not be as good of a space to like be creative and get those like creative juices flowing and do stuff. But for other people, it might work well. And so like interior design is super like personal, and you can really like go anywhere with it, and you can do really creative ideas with different ways to like place and organize things and arrange things and different types of things you can have on the walls and art and things like that. Um, and yeah, I really like interior design. And although I feel like my dream job would, because when people think of interior design, most of the time they think of like designing like houses and things. At least I feel like that's what most people think about. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But like they think of designing like houses and bedrooms and bathrooms and stuff like that. Whereas I'm more interested in designing like workspaces, if that makes sense. So like
So you don't have like a really boring office. You have something like
yeah, like designing like like studio spaces or like game rooms and like creative spaces.
Yeah, yeah. Remember when we went to dealer.com
Yes.
and they had this big open workspace? Like that was actually like a really cool space.
Yeah, that was cool.
To be in.
Like,
Let's see if I remember it. It was like this big room, like not quite a warehouse, but like a huge room, and there was like a circle in the middle, where people can like sit down and work, and then on the sides there's like office not quite cubicles, but like, offices.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like there's more to it because I remember thinking it was a really cool space.
Yeah, I mean, even on the roof of that building, there was like a mini golf course on the roof. And,
Yeah.
like, we played mini golf on the roof of that building, and like that's the type of stuff that I'm really interested in. And like if I can like design a space, whether it's an office or if it's like somebody's like game room at their house or something like that, then like and people go into that space and are like, whoa, this is cool. Like that's what I want, you know. And I feel like that could be really cool. Specifically, I also like am a big fan of Dungeons and Dragons, and I play D&D a lot. And I feel like designing like a D&D room that has like a super optimized table with like a place for like battle things and like with like things on the walls and like shelves for books and miniatures and display racks and like everything for terrain and all that. Like I feel like designing a really cool like D&D room would be like one of my dream projects. That would be awesome.
I mean, you could do that. Just steal the basement.
Yeah, well, I can't really take our whole basement to do that, and also it would probably be expensive to like design and make something like that. So.
Yeah, I feel like there's like some toy stores or even the library that have like areas for not just D&D, but like D&D can be one of the things done in those spaces. I know like at our local library we have like this little room where they do like Magic the Gathering, they do Lego stuff, and it's just like a nice little space to play games.
Yeah.
Maybe you should offer, hey, I'll design a D&D room for you.
If you pay for it.
If you pay for it. Yeah, they're not going to pay for it.
Yeah, but I guess that's my hot take on art. Anything that you want to share about art or random work?
Yeah. So, in the spring semester of my first year at college, I took a theater class, and in that theater class we had a discussion about like what is art.
Yeah, that's a very subjective thing and very broad.
Yeah, and we'd share our thoughts on what we thought art was, and I'm not as well versed in art because art can take almost any form depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
In theater it was a performing art. We perform for people, and it's an art form that includes many different aspects. There's acting, there's set design, lighting, sound. There's so many different things that create this one big art form almost.
Yeah.
Which is, performing. And even the audience is important for this art form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like it's definitely a different feeling when you perform for no one compared to performing for, I don't know, let's say 500 people. Like,
yeah, and because like I think we talked about it in our first episode. Like I'm a big theater guy. I do a bunch of like musicals and plays and stuff at my high school. And I can definitely confirm that.
yeah,
There's so much involved in making like a theater show happen, and like so many different parts of it are their own form of art, whether it's like you said, like set design and lighting and just all of it. Like even the things you wouldn't think of like are totally like their own deep forms of art.
Yeah, and that's why like when creating a production, like you need someone in charge, like one person in charge of each element. Like you have your set designer, you have your like electrician, I guess.
Well, like lighting designer
And sound designer.
Yeah.
Like you have those, you have like
choreographer
and your director. Like you have a lot of people working on this, and kind of specializing in their own art form, I guess. And my professor was a set designer, so she talked a lot about her experience, like designing sets for plays and stuff.
That's really cool.
Yeah. And so when we're talking about art in my class, um, you know, if I remember correctly, like there's I already mentioned like performing art. There's obviously like visual art, which is what most people think of
Yeah.
with art. You know, like
Drawing,
painting. Um, but there's sculpture. I guess is also a visual 3D art.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's also like one that I'm particularly interested in is like writing. I would definitely consider writing to be an art form.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like creative writing. Like I do a lot of writing for when I'm like doing science. In my bio classes, you have to write lab reports, which it's not really a very artistic form of writing. It's very rudimentary. You're supposed to do it a certain way. Oh, excuse me. But with creative writing, like you don't just write. You have to actually create something, which really makes your creative mind going. Like you need to think about like, okay, so I have a story. That's your starting spot. Like I have a story that I want to tell. How am I going to do this? And you can write out the story and be as creative as you want, and you have to figure out a way to use the English language at your disposal to properly tell this story. There's so many different ways you can do it.
Yeah.
And just simply like perspective, like is it going to be first person? Is it going to be third person? Is it going to be past or present tense? Like those are things that you decide really early on, and I mean after you've written for a very long time, you can't really change. If you wanted to change it, like it'd alter the entire story.
Yeah.
And just storytelling in general doesn't have to be exclusive to writing. It can be oral. It can be
it can be through video games or through Dungeons and Dragons and
so just storytelling through podcasts. Yes, I like it. But storytelling in general, I really like. I like the creative element of, you make a world, you make characters, and then, but that's only one piece of it. You have to then have them do something. You don't want to make a character in this world that's like really cool and then nothing happens. They just sit there. Like you have to make some type of objective, some type of conflict, obstacles for your characters to go through to find or accomplish whatever their goals are. A lot of times in stories like fantasy or science fiction, it's, oh, there's this bad guy, let's kill him. That's a pretty obvious one.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always have to be like that. A lot of times, in fifth grade, my fifth grade teacher would read us like survival stories because he was a big survival guy. He liked it, and I think it was the book Hatchet. I don't know. Have you read Hatchet?
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's a pretty good book. So he'd read us. He read us that book, and in that book, it's one character the whole time, and his objective is he gets stranded out in the wilderness because of a plane crash, and his objective is survive, get help. That's a character versus environment type trope. He's not necessarily trying to go on an adventure. He's trying to survive. And the book brings you through all of his hardships as he's like trying not to die.
Yeah.
And so bring it back around to like storytelling, and writing, it's something that I was never interested in high school. It wasn't until like shortly after I graduated that I was like, oh my goodness, I just want to create a story.
I mean, I feel like that's because in school you have to write so much that it doesn't feel like fun. It just feels like a chore. Like it's purely academic. I have never been writing an essay in school and been like, man, this is great. I am loving this essay right now because it's forced upon you. But if
Mm-hmm.
there is something on my own that I'm interested in, like Dungeons and Dragons, for example, like I've done a lot of writing for things related to Dungeons and Dragons and planning for that because that's something I'm interested in and it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah, yeah. Because I'm currently working on a book, if you haven't picked that up. And I'm aiming for a sci-fi novel. So I've been working on it for almost a year now. Jeez. And I was gonna say something and I forgot. Um,
Oh well.
oh well, but oh, I remember. So in school, like, you have most of the time you have limitations or requirements. You have to have a certain amount of words. You have to use certain words. You have to, like, you have a time requirement. It has to be about whatever. Like, you don't even, like, if the assignment is a creative writing assignment, like, you don't get as much freedom as just sitting down and typing or writing
Yeah,
words.
there's always some sort of like guidelines on
Yeah,
it in
but
school.
if you haven't, I really suggest you do. Just sit down and write something, anything. It doesn't even have to be about. It doesn't have to be about anything. It can just be words on a page. Like, just write for the sake of writing, because that is such a different experience than writing for something. If
Yeah.
you're not just school, but like for if you're like doing a magazine or like something that has deadlines, just write with no guidance, no nothing. And I really like that.
Yeah,
c-
I bet a lot of like ideas and creativity. There we go. A lot of like ideas and creativity that wouldn't normally come through when doing it for a deadline or a school or an audience like can really shine through when you're just writing to write.
yeah, which I really wish I discovered that much earlier than I did, because I've always like had ideas and I was like, oh, this is cool. You know what? Like with when I was younger, I'd like create stories with toys. I think most children do
Yeah.
that. I'd play pretend all the time. But those are just in my memory, they're not anywhere. And if I forget, oops, it's gone.
Yeah.
I've definitely forgot a lot of the cool stories I've created just because I didn't put it anywhere. So now that I'm actually trying to put one of my stories in writing, it'll be there. And it's definitely like I have to change some things as I'm writing because I'm either like, oh, that doesn't work, or like it sounds weird if I put it like that. Like, it's definitely a difficult process that takes a lot of time, and it's definitely not for everyone to spend so much time just writing.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I think that we talked. That was our chat about art. Super
Uh,
broad word.
Yeah, and that we literally covered like two different forms of art: writing and theater. Like, there's a million other types of
I
art
mean,
out
and we
there.
talked about design a bit and like
Oh yeah, design. Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, in summary, art is cool.
art
And
is cool.
Art can be so many things.
Yeah, if you say you're not an art person, well,
Wrong.
wrong.
Try again.
Yeah, um, and it's kind of like, some people are like, oh, there's left side brain and right side brain, logic brain and art brain. Like, I don't know. I don't buy it. There are definitely parts of your brain that serve certain functions, But to have someone just be a left side brain or just be like, no, your brain will work together with your logic and your artistic sides, and it's not mutually exclusive. Like
Yeah.
you have the potential to do both.
Yeah.
But some people prefer logic and mathematics than art and creativity, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So,
All right, you want to go on to our next word?
oh, we're doing another?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. Yeah, let's do it. Watch it be like poop.
Characteristic is our word.
I would prefer poop, honestly. What am I gonna talk? So,
Characteristic.
characteristic. Well, that's usually a characteristic of Jared. He wears glasses.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just listening now, you can imagine Jared.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a picture of both of our faces on the cover art, which you probably see even if you're like listening on something other than YouTube. You can probably still see my glasses in the cover art.
That's true.
But I mean, when I think of characteristics, I mean, I know I've brought up Dungeons and Dragons a bunch already this episode, but I mean, I'll bring it up again because I love Dungeons and Dragons and it's something I'm really passionate about. It's like my favorite hobby. And what comes up when I think of characteristics is Dungeons and Dragons and like making your character. And something that is like really cool about Dungeons and Dragons is like your character is completely customizable. So if you're a player, assuming you're not the dungeon master, the person who's like running the whole thing, and you're being a player, you get to create a character. That character can be just like you. You could make them human, and you could make them like fit like your personality. You could pretty much just be putting yourself into a fantasy world. Or you could make something like you can make a character that's nothing like you, like a completely different race. You could make them like a goblin or something, or an orc, and you could have them be like even if you're like a shy, gentle person, you could make your character a barbarian or like a sneaky rogue or something like that. And your character can be it's so customizable, and you can make them however you want. And yeah, when I think of the word characteristic, I mean, I think of like Dungeons and Dragons, and something that can be sort of a challenge for a player in D&D is trying to come up with your character's personality, because I mean, obviously there's so many ways you can play D&D, and it's like a role-playing game, but you can play it a variety of different ways, and everybody has their own sort of playing styles. And so like I personally like to like get into the role play of it, and like rather than you're controlling your character, like, oh, my character goes and says this to this person, like actually getting into the character, maybe having a special voice for your character, and like pretty much acting out your character and like improv and stuff. And it can be really cool to come up with characteristics for your character that make them unique and like give them flaws. If your character is like good at everything and perfect, then it's not an interesting story and the game isn't as fun.
Yeah, I think that's really in any type of media.
Yeah.
Like a perfect character is
Boring.
You know they will succeed. You know that they're just perfect. Like a character, no matter what type of media you're creating, needs to have flaws.
Yeah.
That makes me think about actually Star Wars The Clone Wars, because so the first like I guess movie for Star Wars The Clone Wars, where they introduced Ahsoka, like Ahsoka was not liked to begin with, because she had quite a few flaws that made her rather irritating. She was like overconfident, cocky cadet who like didn't have much regard for planning and like doing things. And what also annoyed like viewers was there weren't many consequences when she messed up. But the writer for the show, I forget his name, he intentionally made Ahsoka very flawed so it can show growth throughout the series. And then, she grew and learned from her mistakes throughout the series, and then she became like a better Jedi, and people actually started to like her more because she overcame a lot of the flaws that like I think I don't remember the episode, but there was an episode where like she was supposed to lead a battalion or something, and then she like just charges in and like gets a lot of them killed, and it's like, uh-oh, like this is a big deal, and that's kind of like a revolutionary point for her. She's like, oh, maybe I need to not do that.
Yeah,
So,
and like now she's grown and she's like a beloved. How do
liked.
she is a well liked character from Star Wars fans and like yeah, like when she's I don't want to be too spoilery, but when she's come up in other forms of Star Wars media, if you know, you know, people have been very excited about it, and yeah.
But yeah, I don't even remember the original point. I think we were talking about how like a flawed character is a more interesting character.
Yeah.
That's what it breaks it down to.
Yeah, and I know like sometimes I mean I'll bring it back to Dungeons and Dragons because that's what I was talking about before. Like when you're making your Dungeons and Dragons character, you have to like roll some dice to determine their different attributes, and sometimes people will get really upset when making their character because they will like roll low and get a bad score for one of their like skills, and then they'll get kind of like upset about it. But the thing is, the skills that you're bad at really help define your character more than the skills you're good at, I feel. Like for example, I played a character once. He was a turtle barbarian. A turtle is kind of like a humanoid turtle. And I played this turtle barbarian and my intelligence score was 5, which for anybody who doesn't play D&D, that's quite low. Anything below 10 is considered bad. So I had an intelligence score of 5. And, at first I was like, dang, that sucks. Because then whenever I make a roll related to intelligence, I have to subtract to my roll. But that's what made my character fun to play, was that low intelligence. The fact that I had a really high strength score, like, that was cool and all. But what made my character unique and what the memories I have from playing that character all relate to my character doing stupid stuff and being
he's just
dumb.
super dumb, like low intelligence, like a 70 IQ.
Yeah, and so yeah, that I guess that kind of concludes our chat about characteristics, and the summary is bad flaws in characters make them interesting and better.
Yeah, it makes them more relatable because people, like the perfect person really doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Everyone has flaws, and so having a flawed character makes them more relatable, and relatability makes a character interesting.
It makes people like them, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Do you want to do one more word this episode?
Let's see.
All right. Let's generate a new word. Budge?
What what are we supposed to say about that?
All right, Ethan. What are your thoughts on the word budge?
I have no thoughts. That's just a budge. I won't budge because we're sitting here on beanbags wearing green because we're green beans.
Boom.
There we go. But this is okay. I'm glad we didn't start with this because
yeah,
I don't know what to say about that.
What do you man, budge. I mean, I guess what comes to mind is sort of people being like stubborn and like they won't their views and thoughts won't budge, and I guess like we've sort of been like unintentionally tying all of these random words to like a big moral like theme. But I feel like when I think of budge, I think of like having an open mind, I guess.
When I think of budge, I think of someone who won't move.
Well, yeah, there's like physically not budging, but then like also like mentally and emotionally not budging. So like if you have a bad attitude, a lot of the time it's referred to as like a growth mindset, or a fixed mindset. And if you have like a bad attitude about something and you won't budge on it and you're just stuck on this negative view, then it's going to make like experiences a lot worse. But if you have like an open mindset and like are willing to try new things and experience new things, then life can be a lot more interesting and you can just be in general a happy person. So that's where the word budge took me.
We constantly say things won't budge, but do we ever say things will budge? Can budging happen? Is that even a thing?
I mean, I'm sure it is, but I guess when things do budge, it's not really notable, so why would anybody talk about things that budge?
Well, now that we've said budge a few times, it just sounds weird. It sounds wrong.
Budge. Now I just think I just think of fudge.
Yeah.
Did you know that fudge isn't always chocolate?
Yeah, I've had mint fudge before and like
You
peanut
see,
butter.
I thought that fudge was chocolate, but recently, like within the past, like, I don't know, year, maybe a few months, I learned that fudge is just like a type of food, and chocolate fudge is one type, but then there are also other types of fudge that aren't chocolate.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like, have you been to at Mazza's, the local farm? They have fudge, and they have all sorts of, like, they have caramel, mint, peanut butter, other stuff. They have a ton of different types of fudge there.
Yeah, well, that's pretty whack to me. I didn't know that. But I think that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode.
But we can't forget the most important part.
Oh my gosh, I did forget.
Ethan's fabulous, fantastic, ferocious fossil
Ooh.
facts. Ooh.
All right. Ooh.
So today's fossil fact is about stones. Now, these are special stones.
Like the Infinity Stones.
Yes, they're infinity stones. So these stones, some herbivores would eat stones. Isn't that weird? These stones are called gastroliths, or gizzard stones. And so they would, like, say Brachiosaurus, for example. He would eat stones, and then the stones would reside in his stomach. And that would just help digest tough plant matter, because, fiber and all that type of plant stuff does not digest very well. So they get gastroliths to help grind it up. And they're called gizzard stones, also known gizzard stones, because a lot of modern day birds or even crocodiles why would a crocodile need it if it... Never mind. Maybe I'm wrong about crocodiles. But birds definitely, will sometimes eat stones and store them in their gizzards to help just digest plant matter.
Huh.
So, and we know dinosaurs did this because, when we'd find fossils, we'd find like a big pile of rocks in the stomach of the dinosaur, at least where the stomach would be.
Huh.
And don't ask me how a paleontologist recognizes that those weren't supposed to be there, like, naturally. They just know. Okay? Trust me on this. That's my source. Trust me.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an expert on fossils, but I feel like a rock and, like, a fossil, like, you could tell them apart.
Yeah, but a gastrolith is not a fossil. It's just a regular rock, but a dinosaur ate it.
Okay. Well, that's a cool fossil fact, something I didn't know.
Yeah.
But now that brings us to to the end of the episode. I almost forgot about your fossil fact.
Well,
my
good
bad.
thing I remembered because,
We're going to forget it one episode.
It's going to be... I will never forget it.
I'm going to forget it multiple episodes.
It's the most important part, obviously.
Of course. That's why everybody comes back. They sit through the 40 minutes of just us chatting. They don't care about that. They just are here for the fossil fact.
Exactly.
All right. So that brings us to the end of today's episode. I personally actually really enjoyed this random word generator game. Brought us down some interesting paths.
It was just kind of like an impromptu, let's chat about something. Yeah, it was a fun little game, kind of spiced things up, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, let us know what you think in the comments of the YouTube video, or you could even email us. We have an email for our podcast, which is greenbeanspod@gmail.com. So you can email feedback there, leave comments on the YouTube video, but tell us what you thought of it, and if you think we should play more games like this in the future.
Yeah, you can access all of our podcasts on YouTube or any service.
Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
Yeah.
all of them.
So Yeah, I also have a YouTube channel called That Etan Guy, Etan, Etan. Check it out. I do dinosaur stuff and weird things. So, yeah, check out my YouTube channel.
All right. Thanks for watching or listening, and hope to see you again next week.
Bye bye.
Peace out.